quiet your mind. Ever since the Earth has circled the Sun, there have been fantastic tales of wonder and mystery that the fate of heart dare not discuss. But three brave, uninformed souls have the brass to tackle every extraordinary happenstance, from the modern age to the dawn of Mantis.
Welcome to Dawn of Mantis podcast. Ivan, Joe, and Sam. Joe, how's it going? Party on, Joe.
Party on, Ivan. Almost said Wayne.
That's
I'm
okay.
Wayne. You're Garth.
It's hard to break character.
It is.
It was so intense. So this is our sixth Halloween episode.
Yes, sir. Our 6th annual Halloween episode. We have been around that long.
So we did John Candy, which is the last one, right? Halloween Candy.
Yes, sir. That was the last one. And then we did Gene O'Brien, I think was the guy's name, that killed his own kid.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, you remember that one? He put the cyanide in the pixie sticks?
That one with the axe murderer are two of my ones that I don't try to think about too often. They were super.
Me.
Yeah, that actually it was. It was just right before.
Yeah.
It was. Hey,
Then we
Sam,
skipped one.
why do you sound so weird, Sam?
Because I'm wearing a mask.
He is wearing a mask. He's wearing a circa maybe World War II gas mask.
Somewhere around there, probably.
Yeah. This is just for those of you who are only, enjoying the audio portion of the podcast.
Yeah, you're like, what happened? Sam's lo-fi. Nope, it's Halloween.
Yeah.
And
Help,
like
I'm down in this well.
so for me, and I think you guys would say the same, this is my favorite holiday.
Oh, yeah.
I really think, we spent a lot of time decorating before, but I think you should get like days off work. It should be a paid holiday,
It
right?
should be, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. Oh, well, we got those coming up, though. I guess that's the good thing about Halloween. The other ones are coming up.
Have you
soon.
seen my front yard?
Oh, yeah.
Incredible.
It is incredible.
We'll put
Yeah.
some pictures on the old, social meds.
Yeah. So, are we doing a smash and grab like we've done in the past, Joe?
Not tonight. My original intent was to do a smash and grab, and I thought, you know what? We'll do a series of Halloween
Mishaps or true crime or whatever.
people who either disappeared or were murdered on Halloween. Well, guess what? There's been a shitload of people either disappeared or murdered on Halloween.
What is this? Because people's out and about, maybe.
A lot of people out and about, a lot of people wearing masks. There's a lot of easy opportunities maybe for someone. I'm going to put my glasses on now.
We all
So I
wear
can see.
masks.
On our souls.
No, what from
mask.
the line,
Yeah, the mask.
metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened was I had a list of people that had either died or disappeared on Halloween. And what happened was there was so much information on each person. Basically, each person gets their own episode. So
Wow.
basically throughout the month of November, I apologize.
Yeah, you're good.
Throughout the month of November and maybe even a little into December, we're going to do Halloween cases.
Okay.
I love it.
Let's just get into
Do
it.
we need to dress up again?
Let's
I
dress
got-
up every time.
I got another costume. I got at least one more.
Me too. I've got a thong and thigh-high stockings. Let's do this.
All right. Well,
I've
let's skip to the Christmas episode then.
I've been dying for an excuse to wear those 6-inch spike heels.
We come in next week and there's a blanket on the couch. In Viz Queen.
Yeah.
So, what do we got for us?
This is one of the more famous missing person cases, and not just for Halloween. This is across the board. If anybody out there listening is even, a 10% true crime aficionado, they are going to be familiar with the case of Chris Jenkins.
Yeah, I am not. So, I can't wait for this.
So oh my God, Sam just brought in that creepy goddamn doll that
is it going to set right here?
it's the same. There we go.
All right.
Those of you watching YouTube will now see this creepy doll. Is it like going to jump at me or anything, Sam? No, it's not plugged in, right? So it's just
She's precious.
She's precious.
She's not going to do anything. But
It's just a
stand there.
little girl in a black dress with pigtails and scars all over her face.
It's
and
KK.
gonna hurl.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Jesus, look at her little creepy Nosferatu hands. Look at that. You have to be watching on YouTube to truly appreciate. Now she's holding Ivan's drumstick or Garth's.
That's amazing.
So yeah, Chris Jenkins, this is a pretty famous case. It was Halloween night. Long story short, he goes to a bar with his girlfriend and a couple other buddies, and he steps outside that bar and then vanishes forever.
Wow.
Yeah, well, not forever. He's found not too long later. But
Okay. All right.
So you want to get to it?
Yeah, let's go.
Christopher Mark Jenkins was born on February 17th, 1981 in Mound, Minnesota, and was raised in nearby Eden Prairie, Minnesota, on the outskirts of Minneapolis. His parents are Steve and Jan Jenkins, and he has a sister named Sarah. The Jenkins are a close-knit family, and Chris was a straight-laced, well-behaved kid. He graduated from Eden Prairie High School in 1999, and from there enrolled at the University of Minnesota, where he pursued a business degree at the U of M's Carson School of Management. He was also the goalie and two-time captain of the university's lacrosse team. He excelled both athletically and academically. He maintained a 3.7% GPA, was an academic All-American, and in lacrosse was 2002's MVP as well as MVP goalie in the Upper Midwest.
You'd have A's in all your classes, but one. Probably
Exactly.
for about a 3.7.
Yeah.
Maybe two B's, but probably no C's or D's.
And then not to mention all his accolades athletically.
Yeah, all those. Yeah, and he's busy, so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So by the fall of 2002, Chris is 21 years old, closing in on attaining his degree and already had a few job interviews lined up. Then came Halloween night, and that, my friends, changed everything.
Yeah.
That's obviously why we are here tonight talking about it. At the time, Chris was dating a girl named Ashley Rice, who we'll talk about more in a bit. Trust me. I don't like this girl. I don't like her.
Okay. You went into a wrestling interview.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
When I get my hands on Ashley, I'm going to win the Intercontinental Championship. Yeah, I just went straight to, right. That day, which was a Thursday, Chris had plans with Ashley and a few other friends to go to a Halloween party at the Lone Tree Bar. Now, see, Ashley also worked at this place as a waitress.
Okay.
But she wasn't working that night. She was just going back to party. The Lone Tree Bar has since been shut down since all this went down. It's now the Gold Room Restaurant and Lounge, but the building sits at 528 Hennepin Avenue, just 10 minutes from the university. This was more than 20 years ago, before everyone was offended by everything, so Chris was dressed as a Native American.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, Lord, that offends me on so many levels. I've got to take to social media. Yeah, so anyway, back then people were just like, oh, cool, and they went on about their goddamn business.
Yeah. He wasn't trying to be offensive.
I'm sorry. Anyway, his costume consisted of a brown moccasin-looking shirt and pants, a headband with a red feather, and slip-on shoes. Okay, that was the costume.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ashley was dressed as a police officer, so she wore a long black cargo pair of pants, combat boots, and a long-sleeved blue shirt with an officer's hat, right? Because that's what a cop looks like.
Stereotypical.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Keeping in tradition with girls dressing like the slutty version of everything, she wore a miniskirt with thigh-high stockings.
Wow. Okay.
She was also wearing an authentic, genuine, official Minneapolis police officer's shirt.
Well, at least she had that.
She did have that.
Yeah. That's kind of cool.
How'd she get a hold of a genuine, authentic Minneapolis police officer shirt? Like that?
eBay?
Those aren't just laying around.
Well, you could screen print your own.
No, this was an actual issued.
Is this part of the case?
You goddamn right.
Okay.
Not really part of the case, but it's part of why I'm like, She's super sus.
Oh, okay.
In the lingo.
So you
of
think
the kids.
somebody left it at her house or something?
No, I'll tell you exactly how she came in possession of it in a little bit.
Okay.
That's going to be a tidbit I'm going to save. Okay.
All right.
Anyway, but yeah, I just want to say,
That keeps you through the commercial break so you don't leave us.
thigh-high stockings, miniskirt. I'm a police officer. I'm so naughty. That's Halloween. If a girl like you say, oh, I see you've got a thong on and a bra with a red cross on it.
Can't say the lines, though.
I'm a naughty nurse. I'm a nurse. Can't see the lines.
Can't see the lines, can you, Russ?
Can't see the lines, can you, Russ?
Oh, it's almost time to reference that movie. I say that officially begins. We start referencing it now.
We
because
do.
Those holidays are just right around the corner.
Close enough.
I don't think you could ever be wrong by saying right around the corner.
No.
It could be August.
Just
right
there.
around the corner. Back in May. Oh, Christmas is right around the corner. You mean like the sun has to go halfway around, or we have to go halfway around the sun? Is that what you mean? The corner of the sun?
Close enough.
Yeah, that works. I said the sun. Anyway. I know science, kind of.
Whatever, Garth.
Keep going.
So Chris and Ashley met up with a couple other friends and rode with them to the Lone Tree Bar on Halloween that night, arriving there around 10:30 p.m. Let's cover two details that will be important later. Number one, Chris did not have a car that night on account of his riding to the bar with friends, like I just said.
What year was this again? I'm so sorry. I'm not putting myself there yet.
No, 2002.
Okay. Thank you. I figure if I'm wondering, maybe somebody else would.
Yeah, probably. There's got to be at least one person out there. Secondly, his Indian costume did not have pockets, right? Indians had no need for pockets.
No. I mean, I got nothing for that, but no, of course not.
So he gave his wallet, keys, and cell phone to his girlfriend, Ashley, to hold in her purse.
Okay.
Her slutty little purse.
Yep.
Because she's a naughty little cop.
Okay.
For the next couple of hours, everyone drank and had a grand old time. But at one point, there was an altercation between some fellow partygoers that Chris got involved in, okay? So there was a couple at the bar that night. Imagine them, right? Nice guy, nice girl, probably in their early 20s. Who knows? I don't give a shit. A man they didn't know started hitting on the girlfriend. So he walks up and, can I borrow a quarter? Because I got to call God and tell him one of his angels fell out of heaven. Hey, how you doing? My name's Gary. What's up? Are you with this guy here or is he your brother? Oh, boyfriend. Sorry, didn't mean to step on any shoes. That's kind of what happened.
Okay.
And the boyfriend posts up and he's like, this is my girl. This is my girl. Or whatever bullshit they do. Don't talk to my woman. And so, but instead of like just kind of pissing off and leaving him alone, this guy keeps on.
Yeah.
So they end up kind of bumping chests, shoving each other around, having a good old-fashioned bar fight.
Yeah.
So Chris sees this and he runs over and he says basically like, fellas, it's Halloween. Let's cool off. Let's just have a good time. Let's not fight, man.
Yeah.
Let's just be cool.
Yeah. Be cool on Halloween.
So this worked. The couple and the guy, they went their separate ways and peace was restored thanks to Chris. True story.
I like it.
At some point after this, a picture was taken of Chris and two female partygoers. And this is the last photograph of him ever taken alive.
Mm.
And for those of you watching on YouTube, we will see a picture right now. There's going to be people. Look at him. There he is.
Huh.
And there's the two girls he's with. And they're in little short plaid skirts and thigh-high stockings. I'm a waitress. I'm a naughty waitress. I don't know what they are, but whatever. So, I don't know why. That's just like, it's been a thing of mine forever.
I think it was a thing for me, but I think I'm just like,
You don't care
I'm
now?
just so used to it now. It's not that I don't care. I mean, I'm with you on what you're saying. I'm just like downtrodden with it,
It's like you've got a thong on and nipple pasties and a cotton ball glued to the top of your butt crack. I'm a bunny rabbit. I'm like, yeah, you work at Denny's and you have 3 kids. What the hell are you doing?
It's like a pass, right? They love it because it's like a pass.
It is like all bets are off on Halloween.
Yeah.
I'm a bunny rabbit. So I tucked a cotton ball into the top of my butt crack. I'm like, okay, boy, I'll see you at church next Sunday, but for right now, what the hell? Now, if there's one thing I've learned in 5 years of covering true crime, it's that there are very often half a dozen versions of every detail in every story.
Oh, yeah.
We've been faced with that many times. The Chris Jenkins case is a perfect example of this, and it begins with how and why he left the Lone Tree Bar that night. So Chris Jenkins leaves around 12:30 in the a.m. That's not in dispute, but there are several different versions of why he left, okay?
Okay.
The first and most repeated version is that he simply got too drunk and was kicked out of the bar.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
This seems to be the story that the security for the Lone Tree told concerning that night, at least initially.
Okay.
The second version is that he wasn't drunk at all, but he had spilled a drink in his lap and a bouncer had mistakenly thought he had peed himself. So he assumed he was plastered. Hey, buddy, that's curtains for you. Get out, right? I don't know why he was from the 30s. That's it, buddy. But yeah, so that's the second version. Is Chris had simply spilled a drink in his lap, and a guy sees it, the bouncer, and he's like, "Gross, get out! You know, you've urinated on yourself."
We need like a roulette wheel, like a wheel, and like it could spin and land on a voice. And whenever we're gonna do a voice next, we'll already have it pulled up. Like Irishman.
Yeah, the bouncer was like, "Out with you, lass! Get out of here now! You've pissed yourself! Disgusting!" But no, he wasn't from Ireland. So nearly 16 years later, on an episode of the true crime series Breaking Homicide, a bouncer who was working that night named Tony Norris, no relation to Chuck, said Chris was not through.
Because that's what I was thinking.
Every damn one of you was thinking that. No relation to Chuck. He said Chris was not thrown out and left of his free will. So he was not thrown out under any circumstances, and he just got up and was like, you know what? I'm stepping outside for some fresh air.
I could almost see like elements from all of that stuff, like bits and pieces of it being true. Like he spilled the drink on himself, so he decided to go home.
Yeah.
Like, or I don't know, whatever. Like he thought he had too much and checked out himself. Like I'm going to go, or whatever.
I understand
You know?
that too. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's so tough, which is sad because I know that's got to be incredibly relevant to what happened. Like, why did he leave? Because that might indicate like which way he might have headed or something, just to kind of jump ahead. I don't know for sure.
No, you're right on the money.
This is not a case I'm aware of.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He
Even
looks
better then.
like
good looking kid, man.
he looks like a celebrity.
I mean, he had the moon. He had the moon he roped the moon. What the hell's that saying? He had the world by the tail in a downhill pool. He roped the moon. Some shit.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
He had his whole life ahead of
He's a
him.
good looking dude.
Good looking kid, smart kid. He was in business and all that shit. 3.7 GPA.
Yeah,
Goalie. So he was we'll get into that too as well. He played lacrosse and he was very good at it. So he was no string bean or whatever you want to call it.
who's that blonde guy back in the 80s and 90s that was in a lot of like made for TV movies? Whoever that guy is, that's who it looks like to me. I'll probably place it in a little bit. It doesn't matter.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Only because we've known each other over 20 years.
Oh, man, I almost had it. Oh,
I know, me too.
It was so close.
Is it Ricky something?
Yeah,
No.
Schroeder.
Ricky Schroeder.
Yeah, that's
yes, we were
wow.
thinking of the same guy.
That's amazing.
No, I swear
Doesn't
to
he
God.
look like Ricky Schroeder?
He looks like Ricky Schroeder.
Sam, do you know what we're talking about?
All you said was that blonde guy from the 80s.
From the made for TV movies.
And I knew it was Ricky Schroeder. I knew it.
This photo down here at the bottom right side looks, right there.
Yeah.
That's
That's Ricky goddamn Schroeder.
Did
I
you
didn't
do it?
even think about that. I've looked at this kid's picture 1,000 times.
I don't know. Not to brag about myself, but that is something I have. I have like a celebrity thing. Like I do. Because we'll be at a concert and Jennifer gets so mad. People walking by. I'm like,
Oh, there goes Alyssa Milano.
Yeah, whoever it is.
Hey, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. What is it?
6.
That's right. Incredible. We can read each other's minds. It's almost like we finish each other's
sandwiches.
Oh, yes, it's incredible. But honestly, the Ricky Schroeder thing is bizarre.
See, look.
There he is. That's, for those of you not on YouTube, Sam is doing a side-by-side.
Ricky Schroeder has to play him. Of course, it won't work now. He's
like
old.
55.
But you could do that thing like Tron. Like, they made him look
younger. Mm-hmm.
Man, that's pretty crazy.
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Yeah, well,
They reversed him.
Tron, they actually made, what's his name?
Harrison
look younger.
Ford? Jeff Bridges.
Bridges, they made him look like.
I got it on the second try.
Yeah,
so
nice.
everyone can suck my butt.
Tron's awesome, by the way.
Tron is
Legacy.
awesome.
You like that movie, Sam? I figured you'd kind of like it. It's on Disney.
Yeah.
So yeah, this Tony Norris guy, and you can look at this. Like I said, it's from an episode of Breaking Homicide. It's a true crime series that's really good, by the way. I watched it. So Tony Norris was there that night. He was a bouncer, and in that episode, they're interviewing him, and he says, "No, I was there. I literally held the door open for the guy. Chris left of his own free will.
Okay.
He was not kicked out under any circumstances." He also said he talked to Chris for a moment before Chris walked down the street, and he said he didn't seem intoxicated at all. Now, I don't know.
Like how much they talked?
Because you can have a brief interaction with someone, and they could be fairly intoxicated, but I just don't know if you could tell that from a couple of words.
Well, if he like saw him walk towards him and it was that kind of interaction, you could tell just by movement probably.
True, yeah.
But if it was just like enough to where he just said hi to him for a second and he just walked off, maybe not. But But it just depends on the amount of time, I would imagine.
I feel like it was one of those generic, brief, like, hey, working hard or hardly working.
Yeah.
And then he walked off.
Yeah,
Like those
exactly.
bullshit things we say
Or
to
just
each other.
like one of those things where you just kind of nod your head or whatever. Hey, see you, dude. Or
Yeah.
something like that.
So I don't
Yeah.
really know if he could have accurately told whether or not.
Yeah,
the guy
yeah,
was-
exactly. It just depends on time, I think.
Oh, so the last version of why Chris was thrown out of that bar, it's the one I find most interesting.
Okay.
And remember the Minneapolis official police shirt that Ashley had that I told you about?
Yeah. I remember that.
Let's talk about that. That's where it comes into play.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
So she'd borrowed that from a Minneapolis police officer named Mike Casey.
Okay.
She borrowed that shirt.
How'd you know that guy?
Interesting. I'm glad you asked, Ivan. Casey frequented the Lone Tree and sometimes worked security in a building next door. So that's how he knew Ashley, from what I gathered.
She could have said, I'm going to be a cop for Halloween. It's like, hey, you should borrow one of my shirts.
one of my shirts?
Make it look more legit. Can I cut it? No, you can't cut it.
Can I cut the midriff out so you can see my belly button piercing? Because I'm a naughty cop. I've got handcuffs that have pink fur on them. I don't. Hey, do cops normally wear thongs? This is weird.
Not that you can see. That's another question for Steven. We've asked some pretty highbrow questions. We could ask him a lowbrow one.
Yeah, I'd love to hear his
What's the
response. to that.
percentage of time? He'd probably like negative percent.
I'm leaving the podcast now.
Yeah. Don't call. Thanks for the stickers. Don't call.
So I found several reports that Casey was being very flirtatious with her that night. And when she introduced Chris as her boyfriend, he seemed annoyed. Like, hey, this is my boyfriend. He's like, ugh, all right, hey.
Oh, I see where you're going now.
Yes, I'm planting the
I didn't even
seeds.
think about that.
In this version of events, Casey was the one who had Chris ejected from the bar that night. And many believe it was because with Chris gone, he could have a proper go at Ashley.
Oh, okay. Get that drunkard out of here.
That's right.
But he's not drunk.
But he's not drunk. But with him out, I got
Intriguing.
full access to flirt with
On
his
the
girlfriend.
show, did they do that thing where his picture was there and it slowly zoomed in on him? Because that's usually a dead ringer for a suspect.
And it fades from normal to like negative.
Yes.
Black and
And
white.
then later, if you notice, it's a subtle editing technique. It will zoom out from that same photo. Whoa, now they're zooming out.
Whoa.
Does that mean the cops aren't interested in the
Something-
suspect anymore? They're zooming away from him.
You're right, dude. The way that they do those subtle little editing.
And it's really, I'm not trying to be crappy. It's really because I've edited a little bit of video. So I know the power of using the same photo a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these cases, I mean, we only have so much stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you just do it in a different way. The next time it like spins in. No, well, they wouldn't do that, but maybe in like a low, but maybe like the CW would.
Like watch an infomercial.
Oh, yeah.
It'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
like, have you ever had problems opening a can of soda? And it's in black and white. And it's this woman
It
like,
is.
oh God.
Yeah,
and she acts
exactly.
like it's breaking her finger.
It's impossible.
I
There's got
can't
to be
do
a
it.
better way.
Yeah. And then it comes in color and everything's all bright and vibrant. Now you can open a soda with just a twist of your finger, and then it's all like nice looking. That's what they do. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's in color now. It must be better.
The soda buddy.
So whatever the motives were behind having Chris ejected from the bar, if that's what happened, if Mike Casey really did it, it's interesting that Casey hung out with Ashley the rest of the night. And guess what, guys? Oh, this is just what boils my blood.
Uh-oh.
This just bakes my balls, guys. So instead of riding home with the same friends, right? So look, I don't want to shit on Ashley the whole time. This Ashley, what was her last name? Rice. But listen, she goes to a Halloween party with her boyfriend at a bar in Minneapolis. He steps outside and just doesn't come back in. She's got his cell phone, his keys, all his stuff that he needs in her purse, right? We covered that. At the end of the night, she's like, Chris is gone. I guess I'll just catch a ride home with this cop whose shirt I borrowed and who I'm around quite a bit and is possibly flirting with me pretty heavily. I'll just ride. He's going to take me home.
And it's going to have his stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So she has his keys, his wallet, his cell phone, all that stuff.
Yeah, which makes me think maybe he was kind of intoxicated. If he'd leave with all that,
Yeah.
without all of that.
Yeah. Why would you step out and leave? But then again, on her part, I just don't know. It just seems sketch that
Or maybe he was. Is there an account that says he was going to leave and come back? Like,
not that I know of. Like
Yeah.
once he steps out of that bar, it's anybody's guess. It's anyone's guess. No one knows.
of course, I don't know. We're not so addicted to our phones back then.
Right. 2002.
That's pretty early.
I didn't even have a cell phone until like 2004 or 5 or something.
I think I had one, but I think it was Nokia Snake. I call it the Nokia Snake because it's all it really ever did on it.
Dude, that was the early days. For those youngsters listening, let me tell you what, when cell phones first came out, the plans were the most ridiculous things ever. You remember? Because I swear to God, like right now, I can have 2 or 3 cell phones, a family plan. No matter what you do, it's like $120 a month.
Yeah.
Back then, I got my cell phone bill. It'd be like $400.
Yeah.
And I would call and be like, what happened? Oh, well, you talked past midnight on this particular day and you didn't have midnight and after minutes. And, oh, are you Jewish because you didn't have your Hanukkah minutes on Christmas? I'm like, all this weird, you had to have like a book 7 inches thick of rules of all the minutes and daytime talk minutes and all this ridiculous shit. It was ridiculous.
You always had like, after the Nokias, you always had that app that you could watch your progress, and Jennifer check it all the time. Like, you've used too many minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, there was one time where I lost my phone for like 2.5 weeks and I finally found it under the seat of my work truck and my bill was still like $300. Like, how did I use it when my phone was dead under the seat of my truck?
You were roaming.
Yes. It was horrible in the first
I do
days.
remember roaming charges.
Oh.
Go over to Oklahoma. Oh, you used a foreign tower.
Yes. It was so ridiculous back then.
Yeah.
Seriously. It almost wasn't worth having one of the damn things.
Oh, I know. Yeah. It's because it was so new. They just charged
Well,
whatever.
remember
No
the
regulation.
coverage maps?
Oh, yeah. I
It was
remember
Oh,
that.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
were barely in the area.
That's right.
That was like you were guaranteed to be
Yeah.
roaming.
Yes. And
I
there
remember
were,
having one of those checking. Am I going to have coverage when I travel
Yes.
down here? Oh, no. It's white, not red. That's not good.
I'd better not try to call. Yeah, there were night and weekend minutes.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
all these weird rules and times. It was so stupid.
I still think it's too expensive, but it's not like it was. You're right. Because of the minutes and stuff.
It is
And
better.
then the way they got you after it calmed down on that part, then when you started using data for like internet later,
Yes.
that's when they got you again until you got like unlimited or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, crazy.
Ridiculous. So yeah, that was the state of cell phones in 2002, just
Yes.
to bring you guys up to speed. So there's a lot of confusion as to how and why Chris left the bar that night, but no one disputes that around midnight to 12:30, Chris Jenkins was outside the Lone Tree Bar, standing on the sidewalk in 20-degree weather. Now, that's minus 7 degrees Celsius to our intercontinental friends, international.
Yeah, there we go. The ones that do it right.
Right, the ones that are like stupid Americans still using Fahrenheit.
Is there footage of that? Of him standing out there?
No.
No, that's pretty early for that too.
There is a little footage that we'll get into, but it hasn't been made public,
Okay.
as far as I know. Yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, his keys, wallet, and phone, they were still inside the girlfriend, the girlfriend, her purse. I need to finish that sentence. They were still inside Ashley's purse
Okay. Yeah.
in the bar, and the coat he'd worn that night was still inside the bar. So he's standing out there in only this faux, what would it be? Leather. Or suede.
Yeah.
Yeah, Indian costume. It ain't warm, guys, at all. So he either didn't want to go back in or wasn't allowed back in. We don't know. I think that if I were in the second situation, like if I wasn't allowed back in, I would just stand there and wait for a friend to come out, or at the very least, ask someone going into the bar, hey, could you find, there's a girl in there dressed like a slutty cop. That's my girlfriend. Could you please get her to come out here?
You would think even if you got kicked out, you could ask for your stuff before. Well, she's got my stuff. Can I at least get that?
Yeah. Can I get my-
Surely they would let you, unless you'd cause some kind of crazy incident.
Right.
Like you just got into a big fight or whatever.
Right. And as far as I know,
There's
nothing like
no-
that happened.
Yeah, there's none of that.
So at the worst, yeah, I see the picture right now. That's Chris Jenkins with the 2 girls, right? And they're probably lumberjacks or something. I don't know. They're wearing slutty little
That's probably
skirts.
Britney Spears.
Britney Spears. Oh yeah,
Well,
2002.
that makes sense.
That'd be right. Yeah, that'd be about right. For whatever reason, it seems that Chris only stood outside the bar a short time before he starts walking. He just starts booking it, okay? That's when Tony Norris, that was the bouncer, said that he watched Chris as he made a left at the corner of the building and started walking east down Hennepin Avenue. This was the last time that Chris was ever seen.
Oh, wow.
The next morning, Friday, November 1st, as Chris' roommates began to rouse from their post-party slumbers and begin their day, they began to realize that no one had heard from Chris. As the day wore on, more and more of Chris's friends realized that he was MIA, and they began to call around looking for him. Ashley also realized he apparently hadn't made it home the previous night, and she was trying to locate him as well. Sometime that afternoon, Chris's parents decided to give their son a call and see how Halloween had gone, so they had no clue yet. This was 2002, and landlines were still the go-to for most calls, so Steve Jenkins called the house where Chris and his roommates lived instead of Chris's cell phone. One of the roommates answered the call, and he said, "Hey, we were just about to call you. Chris is missing. He didn't come home last night, and we cannot find him." After making literally hundreds of phone calls for the next few hours, the Jenkins called the Minneapolis Police Department to file a missing persons report on Chris. Since he was over the age of 18, a report could not be filed until he'd been missing for 72 hours.
Golly.
3 days.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. In the meantime, Chris's parents began their own search, which included hundreds of volunteers. Since the last place Chris was seen was the Lone Tree Bar, that area, along with the route he probably would have taken as he walked home, which stretched just about 1.5 miles across the Hennepin Avenue Bridge over to the university, they searched that entire area and not a trace was found. So to reiterate that, from the Lone Tree Bar, it's not a really long walk. I looked at this on Google Maps. So he comes out, turns left, and he's automatically on Hennepin Avenue, which takes him across the river on this bridge. Then he would turn right and walk over to an apartment complex where he had a place with his
So how many minutes you think?
It was 1.5 miles, so like 15-minute, 20-minute walk.
Yeah.
20-minute walk.
Yeah.
But this is in 20-degree weather,
True.
with
It
no...
could take a little bit longer. Well, I don't know. You think you'd walk faster?
Yeah, and
cold.
Chris played lacrosse. He was a younger guy. He was in really, really good shape.
Yeah.
So there's no succumbing to the elements or any of that bullshit.
Yeah.
So 3 days later, Steve and Jan were finally able to file a missing persons report on Chris, but almost immediately, the Minneapolis PD seemed to assume that he had left of his own free will, and they barely pursued the case at all. Now, you see that a lot in true crime, where the police, and you know what, not to shit on them, I'm sure that every single day, big departments like that in big cities, Minneapolis and stuff, they probably do have cases of people just taken off all the time.
And then you think, I've thought before, like, if it seems like a pretty good family, they say it's not like him to do this. But then the cops don't know these families from anyone.
Right.
So it's almost better probably if it's a small town thing, because at least the cop would really, like, in my little town, the cop would be like, oh, yeah, they don't.
Right. He would know. Jerry wouldn't
something
do
like
that.
Yeah, but something like this, it's not good.
Yeah, when you're in a city of, I'm just going to say 900,000. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Then you don't know that person.
Sure.
And when they've gotten millions of reports, not that many, but however many of people just taking off. Plus he's of age, he's over 18. He's not,
sure,
legally
exactly.
a child.
Yeah.
So everyone wants to automatically jump on the police and like that they should have jumped into action and whatever. But you don't think about all the reports they get on a daily basis of stuff like this.
Yeah.
For months, there was no word from Chris and no sign of him either until February 27th, 2003. This was 4 months after his disappearance. On that day, a woman named Lynn Dietrich was taking her daily walk along the 3rd Avenue Bridge when she spotted a body snagged on some tree branches in an area called Horseshoe Dam. This is only a mile from the Lone Tree Bar and just about 1,600 feet from the Hennepin Bridge. Not very far. This is downstream. By the time the police arrived, the body had dislodged momentarily, just long enough to float another 100 yards before being caught again on some tree branches. It was immediately apparent that the body was Chris Jenkins. He was floating face up with his arms crossed in front of his chest, and he was still wearing that American Indian costume that he was last seen in. Yeah. There's actually a picture of it. It's kind of blurred.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did Sam find it?
Sam had it a minute ago.
Yeah, there's pictures of his body in that river. An autopsy was done and found no obvious signs of foul play, no gunshot wounds, no stab wounds, no external injuries indicative of a beating.
Okay.
The police determined that Chris's cause of death was drowning, and they pointed to these results as further proof of their initial assumption that Chris Jenkins was simply drunk and he fell or jumped off the Hennepin Bridge on Halloween night. Case closed. Right? As far as to them
like
at this
either
point.
a suicide or an accident.
Yeah. Like, oh, so in their mind, oh yeah, of course, he was shit-faced. He got kicked out of the bar. The Hennepin Bridge was only a few feet from the Lone Tree Bar. So he walks across and he either falls off in a drunken stupor or he just takes a header. He just jumps right off. According to the Minneapolis Police Department.
Okay.
Jan and Steve Jenkins, however, were not satisfied with that. There were so many questions. First off, where had Chris's body been for the last 4 months?
Yeah.
Was it in that river for 4 months and nobody saw it?
I feel like they would be able to tell.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the river had been searched many times, as well as the area from the bar to Chris's house, the banks on either side of the river, as well as Nicollet Island. Now, that was a small patch of land under the Hennepin Avenue Bridge. No sign of Chris had been found in those searches. Why was he suddenly floating in Horseshoe Dam just off the Central Avenue Bridge for the world to see?
Would he have been stuck under something?
That's one theory. There's
Okay.
so many theories.
Okay.
Also, the vast majority of drowning victims are found floating face down with their arms at their sides. But like we said, yeah, Chris was floating face up with his arms crossed over his chest.
So yeah, Hollywood gets that wrong because they're always face down like spread eagle.
Yeah.
That's what I noticed from movies.
Yep.
So that's not typical.
Well, I guess, yeah, most of the time drowning victims are face down, but with like their arms down by their sides.
That makes more sense because that's like that's the natural way your arms would want to be.
Mhm.
Like it seems like if they were above your head, they would just go down to your side.
Yeah. And also like when someone's drowning, they don't try to like backstroke their way out of it. You try to, when you swim,
Oh yeah, yeah,
you're face down when you swim.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what they're trying to do. And that's usually how they die in the process of that, and they remain face down. So the fact that he was face up with his arms crossed across him like that is very strange.
Yeah.
So was he dead and frozen before being placed in the river? Or if he'd been preserved in the icy waters of the Mississippi? Was that the answer? Bodies do often sink after drowning, so maybe it had just taken a while for him to resurface. Speaking of the characteristics of people who have drowned, someone almost always struggles as they drown, and their body is found with disheveled clothing and with one or both shoes missing. Because if just think about it, if you're drowning,
Sure, yeah, you're gonna be kicking like crazy.
yeah, every fiber in your body is fighting for survival.
Yeah.
Chris was still wearing his oversized slip-on moccasins, and his shirt was even still tucked into his pants.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's freaking weird. Which is also weird because if you want to look at that final picture of Chris Jenkins at that Halloween party,
Yeah.
the shirt is not tucked into his pants at that point, from what I could tell. Or what do you think? Can you tell?
It's hard to tell.
Okay, maybe I'm
It
mistaken.
looks
but
like a whole jumpsuit to me.
it does. From what I understood, it was two separate articles of clothing. It was a pair of pants and
It's like denim on denim, like you can't tell where one starts.
That's
and-
right. That's right.
hey,
One
denim
side.
Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, this is all like brown. Well,
Okay,
Why,
so-
tan
why is it
leather.
blue in the river photo though?
It's a tarp.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like
okay.
they have a tarp
okay,
over
okay.
him.
Okay.
Well, this is another important point. Okay. I've got to also mention that although I read that water was found in Chris's lungs, that's the obvious proof of drowning.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about.
Well, I also read that his lungs only weighed a fraction of what they should have. Okay. waterlogged lungs should be much heavier.
Right.
So this was confusing. Another thing is Chris's blood alcohol level. The autopsy showed it was 0.12. And we just talked about this in a recent case.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who. In our state,
4 months later?
yeah, that's what it was. And I don't know how well preserved that is, at time of death, if they can still, I don't know.
Alcohol in your system is alcohol in your system. I feel like that shows up for a long time.
Okay.
I don't know why I know that, but it's not I guess it's not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So at time of death, your body's not processing it anymore.
Yeah.
So
So-
it's just going to stay there.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's kind of like a timestamp of whatever it was when you die.
Wow.
It stays that way.
Yeah.
Or at least that sounds right. And I'm going to say it.
Sounds plausible. Yeah, for sure.
So in our state, the great state of Arkansas, the legal limit is 0.08, but 0.12 is definitely not sloshy drunk. Okay. At best, it's maybe some slurred speech and a little stumble in your step.
And if he's an athlete, he's probably muscular and a bigger guy to
Right.
some degree. So
Right.
it's not going to affect him like it would a 90-pounder or whatever,
And being a college student, this dude probably drinks a lot. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. I wouldn't think 1.2 would be enough to make you fall into a river. I mean, it could, but not like staggering where
No.
you're bound to, right?
No. I've probably done podcasts at 0.12 before in here, right?
You probably have.
I'm sure I have. Sam, the look on Sam's face. I'm almost sure that I've done more than a few podcasts at 0.12.
Probably more than that.
Well, when you walk out of studio, don't walk straight.
Right.
Just walk to the other side. There's a small creek.
But 0.12, like you exactly just said, it shouldn't be enough to fall off a bridge. A bridge that has, by the way, a 5-foot tall railing on both sides. Okay? So he would have to, you don't fall off that bridge, you
Right, you
climb
climb
up and
over it.
over. And I don't know what the body does after it, because it was really cold and the waters were nearly freezing. So I know, we covered this in the case of the Isdal woman. They call it the boxer pose. So when a body's burned, the muscles kind of atrophy and shrink.
Yeah.
And your arms kind of come up in front of you, almost crossed, and they call it the boxer pose.
Yeah.
So I don't know if something similar happens when you basically freeze. Does your body contract or do different things? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because he was frozen solid. Like he was like a brick of ice, a block of ice when they found him in that water. He was frozen.
Which was, I guess it didn't help solve the case, but you would think that'd be a good thing.
Mhm.
It'd be like preservation of evidence.
Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, falling into water from about 20 feet, which is the height that he would have fallen off the Hennepin Bridge, this results in a person hitting the water at about 25 miles per hour, which is an impact strong enough to potentially cause a compressed spine, broken bones, or concussion, but not death.
Did he
Okay.
have any of those things?
Not that they could tell.
Hmm.
Yeah. The Hennepin Bridge sits 37 feet above the water. Okay, so I was wrong about 20, which would have meant that if Chris or anyone else jumps off that thing, when they hit the water, they'll be going about 35 miles per hour. So it's still nowhere near fatal, but definitely enough to cause broken bones.
Sure.
And this is according to just like shit I looked up on the internet. But Chris had no broken bones, and he had no signs of external trauma. Like his body was pristine. It's so weird.
Yeah.
So we also need to mention there's this thing of GHB. There was a small amount of GHB in Chris's system, which is commonly referred to as the date rape drug, right? But most pathologists have stated that the level was small enough as to have naturally occurred in the body, and they say it's highly doubtful that Chris had ever had a dangerous amount of it in his system.
Yeah. Where was Bill Cosby, I wonder?
He was in the Lone Tree Bar that night. Would anyone like a Jell-O pudding snack? Right before you get in my limousine. That was a terrible Bill Cosby impression, but you get the point.
I felt you had the handles on it. It's good. It's good. I like it. You did a great job.
Thanks, man. But there's something similar to that. There's a theory similar to that. Doesn't have anything to do with Bill Cosby.
Okay.
But last but not least is a very disturbing detail that I haven't mentioned yet. Ooh,
Okay.
I kept it in my breast
You've
pocket.
had a lot of details.
Yeah, so many details.
Yeah, there's a lot. This must be, like you said, a big true crime case.
It is. It's
Yeah.
it's one of the like top, I don't know, 10 or whatever. So still clutched in Chris's hand when they found him, in his frozen hand was a clump of hair. Oh, we'll know who did it now, right? Because whoever did this to him, he probably reached up and ripped out a handful of their hair, and now we're going to get this son of a bitch, right?
No.
It was his own.
Yeah, you guys you've been doing this too long. It was his own hair.
But why?
Yes. Literally what I typed was, yes, indeed, it was Chris's own hair, but why was he holding his own hair in his hand?
Good job, Garth.
But he didn't.
Garth is killing it tonight.
But he didn't have very long hair at all.
No, it's very short. So why in the name of Christ would he have a handful of his own hair from his head that he'd ripped out, still clutched in his hand? Dudes, I've went over this in 100 different ways, and I cannot figure out how, in the process of whatever happened, whether he was drunk and accidentally fell off, whether he was attacked, however he ended up in that river, how would you end up holding a handful of your own hair that's ripped out of your head? Like, explain that to me. I cannot, I can't get there.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's so weird.
Yeah, what would you do to grab your own hair? I mean, so you know of people and you've heard of people that have been like so mad at themselves and frustrated, almost like a toddler in a way. They would like grab their own hair and. But
that's even a saying, like, maybe want to pull my hair out.
Yeah.
It's weird, is it not?
What did the experts say about that?
Well, there's theories about that as well. Like with everything else, there's nothing in this damn case is settled.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
I mean, the darkest one, I don't want to jump to murder, but you just think of some twisted guy like pulling their hair out like after death and putting it in their hands just to kind of throw off detectives. That's really going way away from, I mean, I've been thinking about murder on this case, but I didn't try to jump there immediately,
right,
you know?
Right.
I still tried not to, but then when you said that, it just seemed kind of like a sadistic thing to do because I can't think of anything rational why you would rip out your own hair.
No.
But yeah, I want to hear the theories.
Well, okay. First off, the Jenkins, his mother and father, they hired a renowned private investigator named Chuck Loesch to help answer some of these questions. Now, with his help, Chris's parents became more convinced than ever that their son had not jumped or fallen off the Hennepin Avenue Bridge. In fact, they believe he never even walked across the bridge that night. Sitting on the bank of the Mississippi River at the entrance of the Hennepin Bridge and just 5 blocks from the Lone Tree Bar is the Federal Reserve Bank building, a massive structure secured like Fort Knox and covered in cameras.
Die Hard 3. Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah.
God damn it, you guys brought up Die Hard. It's been several episodes since you did. I knew you were going to.
Christmas.
Yep, I knew you were going to. Anything else with Die Hard?
Not yet.
You will, though. Trust me. What's the other one? It's either Indiana Jones or Back to the Future or Die
Monty
Hard.
Python.
Monty Python.
Yeah, Monty
that's
Python.
another one. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Griswold.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
So yeah, this thing is covered in cameras. So the first thing this private investigator does is, hey, let me see the footage from those cameras, right? Several of these cameras, they provide a 24-hour view of the bridge, which is well-traveled and brightly lit at all hours of the night.
Amazing.
Yeah. Bank employees watched all of the footage from that night, and they never saw a man. Now, this is one good thing about Chris Jenkins being dressed as an American Indian that night. He kind of stands out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's not like he was wearing blue jeans.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So they never saw a guy dressed as an American Indian walk across the bridge in their footage. Now, as far as I know, this footage was never made public, but many believe there are places where you can cross the bridge without being captured on those CCTV cameras.
Seems like somebody on YouTube would make that video. Somebody lived close by or whatever.
Yeah. And that, as far as I know, that's not on there, but that would be helpful.
Yeah.
You know, would it or would it not catch every angle of someone walking across that bridge?
Yeah, for sure.
So the Jenkins family and Chuck Loesch, they are totally convinced that Chris never walked across the bridge that night, at least not on foot. They believe that he may have accepted a ride from someone just outside the bar, and that person ended up having an ill will towards Chris. That's what they think.
Do you know how far the bridge is from the bar?
I think it's 5 blocks.
Okay.
I think
So
it's
there was
5 or 6
time
blocks.
for someone to pull over and say, Hey, it's pretty cold out there. You
Yeah.
want to ride?
So,
Yeah.
well, yeah, because it takes a while to walk 5 blocks. Like what, 10
Yeah.
minutes, 15
Yeah.
minutes? I don't know.
Oh, the bridge is close to where his apartment is.
Very
so
close.
you said you go over the bridge and turn right and you're at the apartment.
Yes. Yeah. You cross the
Okay,
bridge, turn
so
right.
That's near the end of the journey.
Maybe go a few more blocks. The entire walk was 1.25 miles, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
Steve and Jan Jenkins continued to do their own investigation into Chris's death and continued to pressure the Minneapolis PD to do a proper investigation for the next 4 years.
Whoa.
Yes. Then finally, on November 17th, 2006, Tim Dolan took over as the new police chief, and he changed Chris's manner of death from suicide/accidental to homicide. And he issued a formal apology to the Jenkins family.
Yeah. I would think, I mean, what's the harm in that? Like switching it over.
Right.
It's not clear-cut suicide accident. So you almost have to switch it to that without knowing anything about anything, right? It's like if you decide you're going to put resources on it, reclassify it and go.
Yep. And that's what he did. He reclassified it. He issued a televised formal apology to the family. I've got his exact words. He said, quote, "We made an assumption, and because of that assumption, we probably caused pain. Well, I know we caused pain to the Jenkins family. More pain than they had to suffer and already suffered. And for that, for the Minneapolis Police Department, I am sorry."
And not to divide things into importance, but like, a kid, a smaller kid or whatever, super high priority, obviously. But I mean, this guy's still a kid too. I mean, he's in college, but, still quite young.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not really on his own, right? So.
Yeah. And that's another thing, I mentioned before that since he was over the age of 18, as soon as you're over the age of 18, the police often will take the view of, well, they're an adult and an adult can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if tomorrow, instead of coming home from work, I just vanished and my wife's calling around, I'm not at work, I'm not home, no one has seen me, I'm nowhere. And then it comes bedtime, it's like 10, 11 at night, I'm still nowhere. That is absolutely 100% out of character for me.
Sure, yeah.
So despite the fact that I'm a 43-year-old man,
yeah,
it should be, I would like to think that it would be looked at immediately because, if the police hear the facts that this guy, he has literally never done this.
Sure.
Anybody, like he gets off work at whatever time and he's home by this time and he's never not done this. To me, it doesn't matter age.
Yeah, that's true. The circumstances of it.
Yes.
And surely that's how they look at it. Hopefully. The rational ones that do a great job.
Yeah.
Which I'd say are probably most.
I'm sure most of them are. So yeah, the Minneapolis PD, they began to extensively work the case, but obviously starting so late in the game, 4 years later, has been detrimental to their progress. There's a theory as to why the Minneapolis PD was initially so reticent to consider foul play in Chris's case, and it involves his girlfriend, Ashley, and her cop buddy, Mike Casey.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Can you tell that I don't like her? I don't know.
I was going to ask. Picked up on something.
It turns out that Casey was a married man with 2 kids, but didn't let that stop him from cavorting around with pretty waitresses at the Lone Tree Bar.
Oh, so there's a theory that this was swept under the rug to protect that guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I hope that's not true.
The department was eager to dismiss Chris's death as accidental to avoid investigation that would likely reveal Mike Casey's relationship with Ashley, thus jeopardize his marriage. That sounds juicy, right?
But you wouldn't want to blow something open and solve the crime.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Realistically, we have no idea what the dynamic between Casey and Ashley was like because we weren't there.
That's true.
Maybe it wasn't shady. We don't even know if Chris was actually thrown out of the bar. Maybe he left on his own, according to Tony Norris. That's what he said. So again, maybe it was just a platonic.
Sure.
He happened to be a cop that worked security there sometimes. And Ashley was like, can I borrow your shirt? And there was no.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not. There doesn't always have to be some shady shit.
No, but it would be super sad if it was swept under the rug because of something like that.
Yeah.
You would hope that some cop would say, hey, listen, here's some tough love. Like, you made a mistake and I can't not do my job because of your mistake.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to picture, like, I don't know, I'm trying to put myself in Chris's shoes. And what if my wife came home? Oh, I'm a construction worker. Oh, where'd you get that hard hat? Oh, I'm friends with this guy named Frank that is a construction worker, so he let me borrow his hard hat. Oh, and he drove me home the other day from whatever. I'd just be like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
He's driving you home and you're wearing his clothes. And okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I the only one that's like, is that weird?
I mean, it's just like any other thing in this case. I mean, this is something you have to entertain in your mind for a minute. You know, it's just another avenue you go down when you're trying to figure these things out. And we figured out so many of them. I think some of them we probably have.
Hey, why are you wearing boxers, babe? Oh, I just borrowed them from this friend, Jim. Just borrowed them. Like, wait, what? You're wearing Jim's underwears? How'd that happen? And now underwears are a little more intimate than a
That's
shirt.
true. But I get what you're saying though. Yeah.
Now let's talk about the theories as to what could have happened to Chris Jenkins that night.
Okay.
One popular theory is that he fell victim to the infamous smiley face killers.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no solid proof this group even exists. But years ago, this is the genesis of this. Years ago, a couple of detectives began to think that drownings of many young white males with smiley face graffiti found near the scene were, linked together, that this could be a what's the proper term here?
Like a serial?
Yeah, some sort of serial type killer thing.
Yeah.
Working together to drug and kill these men. And then, they would leave a smiley face as their calling card.
Yeah.
Personally, I think this is a stupid theory. I do not like the smiley face killer theory.
It'd have to be like, you could tell when graffiti's like really fresh.
Yeah.
So if it was really fresh and then there was a body.
Yes.
But I think I remember reading that it was just like there was one there. So they made some kind of link or whatever.
Yeah. And dude, that's exactly what I have in my notes. A lot of those smiley faces were like old as hell. Way before, the murders or the bodies would have even
Had
been
other
there.
graffiti on top of them.
Let me tell you what, let's go back to the early 90s where, like a 14, 15-year-old Joey, well, let's say 16 because I had my license. I can't tell you how many smiley faces I painted on bridges and underpasses because of the Nirvana thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There was a Nirvana symbol that was the smiley face with the X eyes and the smile and the tongue is sticking out. So anyway, me and my friends would spray paint that shit everywhere.
Yeah. Plus, it's just something easy to draw, just like a regular. That's kind of a go-to of someone.
Yeah.
Like, draw something.
Totally.
Okay. A circle, dot, dot, and a semicircle.
Right. So, we could do an entire episode on why, but I'll condense this version right now. I don't like the smiley face killer theory. There's not even solid evidence that most of the men were murdered. None of the smiley face graffiti matches. Some of the smiley faces found near the bodies were painted way before the person died, like we just said. Some of the faces were painted months after the body was discovered. There's not even a smiley face present at many of the alleged smiley face killers' alleged crime scenes. Homicidal drowning is extremely rare, and last but not least, the smiley face is one of the most commonly painted things in graffiti. Like Ivan just said, it's literally everywhere.
I lean towards more the Kilroy was here killer. No. Remember that? That's a crazy thing. The little face with the nose. People, they were writing that all around cities all around during World War II, I think.
Really?
Or maybe
That's
Vietnam
Styx,
too.
right?
What? Yeah.
Styx had an album called Kilroy Was Here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's what
it's
you're
like a
talking
little
about.
comic, and it's like a guy looking over a wall with a big nose.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
No one really knows why it started or how, but it ended up taking off. And anyway, that's just, if you're interested, look up Kilroy Was Here.
They find it suspicious that so many college-aged white guys fell into bodies of water after leaving a bar, but most college-aged white guys drink like monsters. It's really hard to believe they'd be more common demographic for drownings. Is it really that hard?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't think.
Think of every drunken frat dude,
and not just alcohol. Like I mean, they've got a multitude of things going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what if he ate a handful of dried mushrooms and he's talking to Jesus And he thinks he can walk on water. Guess what? It's the Potomac. You can't, buddy. You're going to drown. Boom. So I don't think it's nefarious. I just think it's a bunch of, there's lots of bars that are near bodies of water and drunk white guys that fall into them.
And hey, you ever notice, this is so simple. I know you guys have noticed this, but like when a fish gets out of water, it just flops, right?
Yeah.
It's because the grade of water, like the grade of the bank, is pointing towards the water, right? So obviously it's going to end up in the water if it just keeps flopping or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So then the guy trips and he's going to end up in the water because it's just, it's like the fish flopping, right?
Yeah.
It's just gonna bounce down into the water.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, you're almost in a like a creek funnel in a sense,
And so creek funnel.
Creek funnel.
TM. That belongs to Ivan.
The
no one
bank
else
is the
can say
creek
that.
funnel. Everything ends up in it.
And I'm kind of drawn to water when I've been drinking. You guys have literally warned me about it before, but on this podcast, I've told the story about, oh yeah, I had 7 shots and a bunch of whatever, and then jumped in it's awesome to like jump in the pool and like float to the bottom and just hang out there for a minute, especially when you're buzzed.
Yeah.
Although I do acknowledge that might be dangerous.
It might be. Yeah, it might be.
But I've also done it like 400 times and I'm still here. So,
yeah,
maybe it's not that dangerous.
Yeah, you're just playing the odds.
Yeah. I can't say that it's not going to happen when I get home tonight.
Well, that'd be a cold one.
At least it won't be a true crime case, really.
No.
I mean, you just said what's
Yeah.
gonna,
The dumbass literally said what he was going to do and he did it. So case closed. Joe Hull was found floating face down in his pool the other day, and everybody's going to be like, of course he was. Of course. We knew this. This is not a surprise. Anyway. So a much more believable theory is that Chris was killed by a man named Jeremy Alford.
Okay.
Let me explain this. Yeah.
All right.
Alford has been in prison since 2005 for the horrific murder of a guy named Douglas Miller. Alford has claimed that he operated within a serial killer cult called the Dealers of Death.
All right.
And is
Sounds
involved-
like a heavy metal band.
Yeah. Dealers of Death.
Yeah.
Our
really
next
does.
song is called
You could have like the DOD on there. I could see that logo.
Yeah. So yeah, he claims he's in this serial killer cult called the Dealers of Death. And so he said he was involved in the murders of dozens of people. But the authorities, they aren't too sure how accurate his statements are. Okay. He also claimed to be involved in the murder of Chris Jenkins. He's claimed that on Halloween night in Minneapolis, he and some others picked up what he said was a guy in an Indian costume near the Hennepin Avenue Bridge, and they eventually killed him and threw his body in the river. Well, that's interesting because I bet there weren't that many guys in Indian costumes walking around the Hennepin Avenue Bridge.
Yeah, and it's Native American costume. Not only are you a murderer, but you're also disrespectful to... No, I'm joking. I'm not going there.
You're going to be canceled.
That's right.
No, because Chris would have been canceled just for wearing it back then.
That's true.
If it was now.
Yes, he would have been.
So, is this guy just another killer confessing to extra murders to gain more clout? So what's interesting is Jeremy Alford not only lived in Minneapolis at the time, but he was a frequent patron at the Lone Tree Bar.
Okay.
So this might not be total bullshit.
When there's smoke, there's fire.
Yes. It is not known whether or not he was there the night Chris disappeared. On the Breaking Homicide episode about Chris, Alford is asked if he was involved, and his only response was, quote, "I really don't want to talk about any crime that I haven't been charged with and or convicted of." And then he clammed up.
Well, I mean, at least that if he was somebody just claiming responsibility, he would have definitely said yes then.
Yeah.
But then, unless he did it in some kind of cryptic
It's
way.
food for thought, man.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy
the bar thing is interesting.
Yeah.
He frequented in the same bar.
Yeah. They talked to bouncers and waitresses in the Lone Tree Bar, and several of them were like, oh, yeah, Alford was in here all the time. And this is at the exact same time period that Chris was there, but they don't know if him and Chris were in the bar that night. They don't know if Alfred was
Maybe
there.
he never was in the bar. Maybe he was just driving by because it would mean he's somewhat local to the area.
And that's what his story was. He said they were driving by the bar and they picked up Chris, or he didn't say Chris, he said a guy in an Indian, American Indian costume on the Hennepin Avenue Bridge that night or near there. So that was his story. Yeah, that they were driving, and he was in the area that night. There's really no other details or evidence to that, but it is definitely interesting.
It's got to be a reason he was rolled out though, or maybe it was never rolled out, but there was just nothing to tie him to it.
Yeah. I think it was more the latter.
Okay.
So another theory involves Nicollet Island. That's that little body of land that was under the Hennepin Bridge. Many believe, based on the location of Chris's body, where it was in the river, that he'd entered the water from Nicollet Island. And they studied like flow patterns and all this shit.
Okay.
And there's a group of people that think that it was from there. There happens to be a series of sewer tunnels under Nicollet Island that lead to a large room known as Satan's Cave.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a popular spot for partiers, and it's called Satan's Cave because all of the satanic-looking graffiti there. Yeah, I don't know what satanic, I don't know if it's like devil horns or
probably
goats standing up on their hind legs.
Probably is.
Pentagrams.
Yeah, probably some stuff like that.
Shit like that.
Yeah.
But that's the same shit that like high schoolers spray, just to be stupid.
666.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and here's a wiener too. Look, I made a wiener. It's just stupid. Well, there's a theory that for whatever reasons, Chris ended up in Satan's Cave that night and became a victim of some sort of foul play. But again, total conjecture. It is just a theory. So let's look at the circumstances a moment and see if we can decide if Chris was murdered.
Okay.
The condition of his body does not suggest violence. He had no visible or internal signs of trauma. So that would make you think he's simply drowned, but his crossed arms, tucked in shirt, and shoes make it seem that he was dead or unconscious before he entered the water. It's very weird. His blood alcohol level was above the legal limit, but it was reported that he wasn't even acting intoxicated when he left the bar. From Tony Norris, remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So if it was an accident, if he'd fallen off the Hennepin Bridge, his body would surely somehow show some sign of trauma. It was a 37-foot fall.
Sure.
What if he entered the water from a lower point, like off Nicollet Island? That's what they say, because Nicollet Island there's a little beach, and then you're in the water. It's not even a fall. Nearly all of the evidence seems to contradict itself, and that's a very frustrating part of the case. So, that's the end of my notes, and I'll just end with this question. Considering everything that we just covered, Sam, Ivan, what do you think happened to Chris Jenkins?
Sam, you want to go first?
You got any theories? What do you think?
That's tough.
Yeah.
It is. This is one of the toughest ones we've had.
Well,
in a
it's
long...
weird just because his clothes weren't all disheveled.
Yeah.
And,
Both shoes were on his feet,
he would have been, fell in the water and drowning and awake. You'd would think he would, at least been trying to swim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes I don't know. I just think the water makes your clothes kind of move around. I know anytime.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, totally. Especially if you're trying to swim or get back up on the bank or fight for your life. I just wonder if he fell in. Of course, this doesn't make sense. I was thinking of this earlier. He fell in and he got out and he was cold. But you would think you would find him and then he fell back in after he, died or after he passed out or something. But still, you would think he would be more like a fetal position, like I'm freezing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
It wouldn't be flat. You wouldn't think.
Could he have fell in anywhere where there wasn't wasn't railing?
As far as I know, the Hennepin Bridge has those 5-foot tall railings all the way across. I even got on Google Maps and went to Street View and, clicked across the bridge. I didn't really see anywhere that didn't have those high railings. And they were there at the time as well. This isn't so I don't think he fell off the bridge. Or if he did, it was intentional. You would have to literally climb up those rails and then dive off.
So he's poisoned at the bar. Some guy knew it, whoever did it, or girl. He walked away. They waited for him to fall down or get really sick. They came and picked him up, took him somewhere else for a few days. And then after he died, they put him in the river just like they had him I don't know. That's quite elaborate.
Well,
But just for that pose.
Right, yeah.
so this wasn't in my notes, but there was someone that came forward after Chris was found that said, I think it was roughly a month before Chris had died that night, so we're probably talking late September. This person came forward to say that they were at the Lone Tree Bar and someone had spiked their drink with this GHB.
Okay.
And that they started to pass out, but I don't remember the exact circumstances. Somehow a friend or something was there to kind of rescue them, but they were fully convinced that their drink had been laced. And so there is a theory that someone did try to lace Jenkins' drink with GHB. And after he left the bar, he passed out or succumbed to it. And still, I don't know.
So it would make sense. So he gets drugged, passes out, they take him somewhere. That works through his system. So later on, they don't find very much in his system. So he's awake somewhere else. I don't know how they kill him.
But still having alcohol in his system, though.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. So, So that actually gets rid of that.
That
unless they gave him alcohol again when they in captivity.
Yeah, because where was he? That's another thing. For 4 months.
Yeah.
Where was he? For 4 months. Did he sink? And then 4 months later is when he floated up? Because what's weird is, even from the time that he was first spotted in the river by that lady, by the time authorities got there, he had floated on down another 100 feet. So he was in motion. So to me, it was almost like he wasn't in the river until that day.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it seems like to me.
Unless he's way under. Seems like you would have found him.
Yeah.
Because, that's the path. And when you were first talking about this case and you said he walked over a bridge, I was thinking immediately in the water before I knew he's found in the water.
Yeah.
So, you would think the search would be by his parents and by volunteers. It'd be a quiet and elaborate search around that water.
And they did.
If it was your kid, you would scour that thing.
And I don't know if they had divers that actually went in the river, but I do know they searched the surface of it and the banks, way up and down, upstream and downstream of where he possibly went in.
I'd like to know where he got the costume, because if it's just some Party City
thin, disposable,
that's not going to survive 4 months in a river.
No.
That's true. Yeah.
And can you look at the costume again? So there's a picture, and like I said, for those of you watching us on YouTube, we'll show that picture again. But there's a picture of Chris just right before he vanished, right before he walked out of the bar, in this costume. Now, I can't tell at all of the quality of it just from that picture. There's another interesting little tidbit here, and I didn't include it in the notes because, to me, I don't know, there's a parking garage, and I think it's between the Lone Tree Bar and the Hennepin Avenue Bridge. Supposedly, there were pieces of that feather. So he had a headband on with a red feather as part of his American Indian costume. And supposedly pieces of that red feather were found in the parking garage. So there's another theory that he was walking, and someone was like, my God, where are you going, man? I'll give you a ride. My car's over here, and he goes with them to where their car's parked in this parking garage. And then they obviously had other intentions than taking him to his house. That's another theory. But I don't know, man. It's wild. It's just so out there. I don't know if it's a case that'll ever be solved.
People are pointing at the police officer in several posts.
Mike Casey, yeah. Now, he's not very popular on there. I don't really think he had anything to do with it. He may have been a shady character that night, insofar as he was trying to get rid of Chris so he could hit on his girlfriend. That doesn't make him a killer.
Yeah.
I don't think he had a damn thing to do with with the death or disappearance or anything like that. That's my opinion. I don't really have a theory as to what happened.
It should have been jumped on earlier as far as an investigation part. There's just not a lot. You talk about the first 48 in about 4 months.
Yeah. How many hours are in 4 months? The first 4,000.
The first 48,000 months or the first 48,000 hours.
Yeah.
Or whatever it would be. I don't know. It's crazy. Yeah.
So 30 days times 24 hours is 720 hours times 4 months. The first 2,880 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't solve it by then, the odds go way down. That's a good case, though. It's kind of a neat Halloween tale that's not so neat for him.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, you know what? I don't know if you've checked the hotline lately, but anybody that has any theory at all as to what could have possibly happened to Chris Jenkins, call the hotline. I mean, somebody out there might have an angle that we haven't thought about. I don't know.
Yeah. 417-4-MANTIS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look us up on social media, mainly Instagram at Donna Mantis Podcast.
Yeah.
And on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where you might be watching this right now. So check out the YouTube that you're already watching.
So by the time y'all hear this, it'll actually be a few days after Halloween. So we hope you had a great Halloween and got all the candy you wanted and whatever. And then also, like I said at the outset, for the following several episodes, we're going to have Halloween cases, people that either disappeared or were found murdered on Halloween, because there's just so damn many of them that we ended up with several episodes. And coming up soon, within the next 2 or 3 episodes, we're going to have the one and only Mr. Steve Coppinger back in studio, along with a former law enforcement officer and Arkansas historian, Tony Perrin.
Yes.
And that one's going to be really, really interesting. That'll be
Revolver guy, if you will.
Yes.
That's his blog.
Yep.
He's got some cool stuff on there.
Very cool stories, especially. I know we have a lot of Arkansas people that listen because they've left comments about certain Arkansas cases. And so, yeah, it'll be really interesting for that. This guy's like a walking encyclopedia on that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And super nice guy. Can't wait for both of them to be here. That'd be awesome.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Yep.
So, yes, happy Halloween, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And like I said, call the hotline if you have any theory or any interesting angle on the Chris Jenkins case, because, man, I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah. Party on, Joe and Sam.
Party on, Sam and Ivan.
Party on.
Let me tell you about some fellas I know, named Ivan, Sam, and Joe. They got themselves a little podcast, you know. And they talk about everything under the sun that they find interesting, spooky, or fun. And they sure ain't trying to impress no one.
Remedy to too much time on your answers. Take a little listen to the dawn of Mantis.
They talk about killers, monsters, and cults, French maids from hell, disappeared folks. Occasionally throw in a few dad jokes. They try to make every story extra nice by adding their own ginger spice. Not one time or two, but thrice.
The remedy to too much time on your answers. Take a little listen to the dawn of Mantis.
Now I'm sure these fellas will be around for quite a spell, 'cause there sure ain't no shortage of stories to tell. 'Cause this old world's as weird as hell. But hell, even if nobody listened, you know they'd maintain a fine disposition, 'cause shooting the breeze is kind of their mission.
The remedy to too much time on your answers. Take a little listen to the dawn of Mantis. Remedy to too much time on